Ayes 61, noes 58. The motion is agreed to. We come to clauses 1 and 2. The question is that clauses 1 and 2 stand apart.
Mr. Chair.
You're seeking a call, Claire Curran.
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last night I received an email from a librarian who was trying to determine if the National Library and libraries with over 4,000 clients particularly in our large metropolitan centres, may not be caught up in the definition of being a service provider under the auspices of this bill. Well, I can tell you, Mr. Chair, that under the definition of a service provider, which says that any person from within or outside New Zealand provides or makes available in New Zealand a telecommunications service to an end user, whether or not as part of a business undertaking and regardless of the nature of that business undertaking, then under that definition the answer would be yes. Yes. And if it's going to be the libraries that are caught up in the definition of service provider in this legislation, then who else is it going to be that's caught up in the definition? What other organisations? We've heard through the debate on this bill that there may be schools or networks of schools, even the government new network for learning that may be caught up under the definitions in this bill. Organisations and services that provide public services for hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders that may get caught up under the definitions of this bill. And we're told that, oh, this is all pie in the sky. The problem that we have is that these definitions are far too broad, and the impingement that they may have on the rights of New Zealand citizens and the rights of New Zealand companies to operate under a regime that is considered to be democratic is impinged in this bill. If libraries are caught up under the definition of service provider, there's another chilling effect that this bill has, that a minister has under the powers given to them in this bill, and that is at section 35 of this bill, where a minister could, on the recommendation of the GCSB, with no recourse to public discussion or any evidence that's provided or any independent organisation or entity that gives advice to that minister, where that minister could decide to deem in any service provider and turn into a network operator, which means that they would be, under Part 3 of this bill, subject to having the most extraordinary interventions in their organisation. So if libraries, and this is all hypothetical, but this is the thing with legislation, if the potential is there, then it has to be considered possible. And why make the powers available in the bill if they aren't able to be used? So if libraries if there's the power for a minister to deem in the National Library to be considered a network operator, which means that there could be GCSB operatives put into determining the business of the National Library, where else could this be occurring? And this is not pie in the sky. This is entirely possible, and it's been pointed out to the government on numerous occasions in recent weeks by New Zealand tech companies who are concerned that they are going to get caught up in the definitions of this bill. That is why, Mr. Chair, one of the reasons why, under Clause 2 of this bill, that Labor has submitted an amendment which we believe is absolutely important in order for New Zealand citizens to feel reassured about their rights and the rights of businesses under this legislation, that this bill only be submitted for royal assent if a select committee has reconsidered it and reported that the bill is consistent with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act of 1990. Now, if the problem we have is that the cursory rubber stamp vetting process that this bill went through at the beginning of its passage through this House, it's a very different bill now, and it's a bill that is definitely impinging on the rights of New Zealand citizens and, Mr Chair.
Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And on the abilities of New Zealand companies to go about their business, confident that there is a regime in place that, while maybe protecting national security, also recognises their rights as entities and provides adequate checks and balances to ensure that unfettered rights, powers of a minister are not being exercised to their detriment and to the detriment of innovation in this country. Mr Chair, on this basis, this bill could affect the National Library of New Zealand. It could affect many of the media organisations in this country, and it could affect, as we've heard, many of the small innovative tech companies. And I want to read to you the concerns of one of those who wrote to the Minister several weeks ago and raised them. They said that government and the general public, their company platforms services to New Zealand businesses, government and general public by providing them with internet-based services that allow them to communicate electronically. These facilitate communication. Remember, this definition is included in the bill. Publishing and broadcasting in various fields. For example, more than 3,000 students across New Zealand use the My Portfolio social learning platform that this company supports. Under the terms of the current definition, anyone who contributes to enabling schools to use that platform, including this company, can be argued to be a network operator under the above definition. In fact, by enabling schools to use My Portfolio to facilitate communication with and amongst their teachers and learnings, it appears to us that the Ministry of Education itself is also a network operator. Now, the people on that side of the House may laugh and scoff, but the problem that we have is badly drafted law. If this is not the intent of the Minister, if this is not the intent of the government, then why isn't it clear in the law? It's bad law, and it hasn't gone through a process of being put against a rights-based set of legislation which we have, which actually draws out the problems, and it hasn't been taken, and the concerns that have been raised by reputable business entities in this country around the impact of them have not been properly considered. This is a travesty of law, and it should be sent right back to the Select Committee where it came from. It should be put right up against the Bill of Rights, and there should be another process back through this House. And the Minister who has brought the legislation before this House should be held accountable for what a dreadful, draconian piece of legislation that is shameful to this country.
Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr Chair.